Hey, Tina Ree here, reporting for duty on a trigger. Thank you for shuffling states of emergency into adoption spirit with me and steering clear of danger. Heartily, we are grateful. In this session, we shall talk about testament. And maybe that sounds religious. You can come up with another word for it, like it's just your stories, your past, your present, and then what you would like your future to be, what you prefer or hope or wish for your future. I'm wincing because all those words, wish, hope, like, I'm a wordsmith and I just get really picky with my words, but then I'm speaking, and to reorient in my head which word to use, it takes some time. So you get the idea. Quadruple check my words, make them yours, make them resonate with you, and have fun with that. So your testament, on these testament cards, you are going to write different pieces of your life, your past, present, or future. And I brought up writing in pencil before in the safety meeting and in the wild card meeting. Why it's so important to write in pencil is because you're not setting this in stone. And with this testament suit, one of the 4 suits in your stacked for life deck of cards, it's super important because sometimes all you can think is to start with the negative. So that's the place where you want to start in pencil. So these cards are to help you play through your loss and trauma to live the life you want to live. And sometimes it's hard to even think about the life you want to live because the loss and trauma is so devastating. And it's important to honor that. And how do you honor that without going off the deep end? Well, in pencil, on a little 3x5 card, in your own space and time, your own sacred space. So carve out some special time for yourself and sit in your special place, whether that's your car or your sacred corner or your kitchen table, wherever it is. Maybe you feel comfortable at a coffee shop or at the bar, and that's where you enjoy doing your work and you can feel safe in those spaces. But set a date for yourself to do these testament cards, or it might also be that you have decided that you're going to take the challenge and just do 1 card per day for a year. And that way you can accumulate all of these different suits that we're talking about in this course about reclaiming your game. 1 card per day. And some of your cards may cover the different suits, and some of them may be art pieces. And so just trust what you're guided to do each day. And that's just another way to make it manageable. Instead of sitting down all in one session and doing all of your testament cards, or sitting down all in one session and doing all of your wild cards, it's not so manageable sometimes and not so reasonable sometimes. And we want to make this reasonable and manageable and help you play through the loss and trauma, not to make it more excruciating. Okay, so if you can take the challenge to do 1 card per day, and then you can accomplish it. 1 card, that's just 1 little 3x5 card, and then you can feel really, really happy about that and accomplished that you are reaching your goals doing 1 card a day. And with your testament cards, it really comes into play because some of them can be really sad. So, for example, some of your testament might be your losses and traumas. Own it in your own space. Be able to own it in your own space and talk about it in your own space in pencil on a 3x5 card. So, one of my testament cards was I was diagnosed as bipolar. And in my heart of hearts, I just knew that wasn't true. my doctor, with all his best intent, didn't have a background in adoption and didn't really acknowledge my adoption. And there's a lot in that. All that to say, a little while later, after that diagnosis, I began seeing specifically an adoption counselor, and she affirmed my heart of hearts. She shared that the way that an adoptee looks to parents through professionals looks the same way that a person diagnosed as an addict, ADD or ADHD or bipolar looks to the parent through a professional. And that was Independence Day for me. So all that to say, on one of my cards in pencil, bipolar is written, and on the other side, healing adoptee. It's all nice and pretty. And sometimes you'll write down the loss. Maybe it's an ADHD misdiagnosis, or you've been misdiagnosed as a dumbass, or a criminal. People just think you're evil. Whatever the loss is, maybe it's some sort of emotional, physical, sexual abuse. Maybe it's the death of a parent or a pooch. Some of these things, you're not going to know right away what to put on the other side. But just know it's enough for you to be able to acknowledge it in your own safe space in pencil on that card, and that you put it in your Stacked for Life deck of cards after you've written it in pencil, and that eventually, after you've been letting that rest on a shelf, maybe it's a day, maybe it's 3 days, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month or a moon, maybe it's a whole year, a sun, maybe it's a decade. Eventually, the positive flip side is going to come to you. You're just going to know it. You're going to be like, oh, that's it. That's what goes on the other side of that card. And you'll be able to paint it all nice and pretty on the flip side of that card. So it's not like you're just putting a laundry list of all your losses and traumas and they're just sitting there like a pile of shit. No. You're acknowledging it, you're owning it, and you're trusting that there is a positive flip side to that, even if you don't know it right now. So, it may be enough for you just to acknowledge. If you're doing the card a day challenge, just to acknowledge when you're up to it. A certain day comes, you're like, okay, I'm ready to acknowledge this loss, and that's the card you write for that day in pencil. And you may have figured out the positive flip side. It may come to you while you're writing down that loss. You may be gifted with that from your source and from the universe and from your angels and guides, and it may just come to you. You may just know. And it may come to you later down the road. But just trust. There is a positive flip side to all of these losses and traumas, even if you can't see it yet. And to be able to own in your own space what those are is really empowering. Really helps you build trust for yourself, that you are able to take care of yourself and be there for yourself and nurture yourself, and baby yourself and raise yourself, and to evolve, to transmute those fight, flight, fuck, freeze, violent cycles into love. You can do it. You can do it. You are doing it already. You're here. That's huge. So those are some of the testament cards. I started with the negative because that's a large reason why I play my cards, to play through these losses and traumas. But of course, with this testament suit, please put down your accomplishments, and maybe your 3x5 deck of cards you abstract it out. Like maybe some of the 3x5 cards aren't 3x5 cards at all, but maybe it's your high school diploma, your college diploma, your graduation from your swim club or your karate club or your Girl Scout troop, or you get the idea. You can expand upon these cards, and so this testament piece, the positive things that have happened in your life as well, in your past, that really fill you with joy. Those are important to put in your stacked for life deck of cards as well. Like maybe there is this day that just was so blissful for you, and you can acknowledge that day somehow on a 3x5 card, or maybe it's actually like a high school diploma. Like I said before, it's not actually one of your 3x5 cards, but you can somehow keep that in the collection. Dragonfly just flew by. Your testament. So your past and your present, what feels relevant for you. And if you're doing a card per day, maybe that's going to fit in nice and easily. Or maybe you decide you want to set a date with yourself and do a whole stack of your testament cards because it just feels right. Like you have them in your head. You're like, oh yeah, I know what these are. And again, as I said in the wild card session, there's some magic to writing these down. It's one thing to know it in your head, but it's another to write it down and make it happen. There's a book by Henriette Ann Clouser called Write It Down, Make It Happen, and you can read that and understand more about that magic. And many other people have written about that or spoken about that as well. Some other people may resonate with you more to understand more about the magic of writing it down and making it happen. So you're adding testament to your stacked deck of cards. And so there's those times when you don't know what to do and you just need to change your mind. What do? You go pick up your deck of cards, you shuffle them, and you pick a card. And maybe one of these testament cards is going to pop up and just make you feel fabulous. Or maybe the flip side's going to come up and you're going to be like, oh, that's right, that happened, and that's what I'm feeling today. Isn't that interesting? And oh my God, the positive flip side just came for me. And you can write that down on the flip side. Or maybe it just comes out and shows you, like reminds you, oh, this is how come I'm in the funk today. It's this loss. And wow, I recognize that all on my own. And you can really feel positive about that and how you're taking such sweet care of yourself. It's really beautiful. It's making me tear up because it's a whole thing. Learning how to take care of yourself in this way when nobody else is around, when your parents aren't around, when your friends aren't around, when the doctors and therapists can't be around, that you can do this for yourself, that you can play your cards and play through these challenging times, these times when you just get stuck. And to go a little deeper with the testament cards, maybe some of them are pictures. Maybe there's pictures that remind you of a really joyful time of camping out or hanging out with friends, or your poochies, your garden, your art that you've made. These can go as testament cards as well. Hopefully you get the idea and can expand upon that and make that your own, these testament cards, past, present, and future. Oh, future. What you want in your future. This is another piece of the testament cards to make. You predict your own future by what you say, and so by writing out these cards in a very particular way, you can have more control over that, making things happen the way that you want. So, for example, when I began playing my cards, it was the year 2000, and I was frustrated that I couldn't get to my art because of the rigors of teaching adolescents. And I thought to myself, wow, if flashcards can help me learn how to become a teacher, if they can help me learn languages like Spanish or my math facts like the multiplication tables, then they can make my dreams come true. even if I don't know what those dreams are, even if I don't know what my art is. All that to say, I began one card per day in the year 2000, and one of those cards said, I am an artist. And fast forward to 2012, I was invited to the first female Romani art, culture, and history exhibit in the United States of America, hosted by the Voice of Roma and the Petaluma Historical Museum. Yeah, so all that to say, for your testament cards, write down what you want to be in a positive I am statement. And this might overlap a little bit with the tarot, which is another session coming up. I am an artist. That was the card I wrote. And then 12 years later, without really trying, like I left teaching in 2009 to join the Decade of Romani Inclusion and to come out as an artist and as an adoptee and a Romani, and so focused on that, and magically this exhibit came across my path just by me doing my dues. It wasn't like I was knocking on doors and trying to get into an art exhibit. It just happened by me playing my cards and trusting, taking care of myself, really just being gentle on myself and just trusting, not pushing. Of course, sometimes you're going to put effort into making your dreams come true. It's not to say things always happen magically without any effort. But there are times when that magic absolutely does happen. And, working through the loss and trauma, that's challenging. And that's a large part of what these cards are about, to be happy with life, even when there's this tremendous loss and trauma. That's a part of it. So your future cards, the things you want to be in the future, write them out as a positive I am statement. And again, that might overlap with tarot, because tarot specifically is I am statements. If you take the occult, the hidden part out of it, and it's so scary. No, it's not really scary. It's just I am statements expanded upon. And I am statements are affirmations. So another card I wrote around the turn of the century that really surprised me, I didn't know where it came from because I didn't know myself that much or my heritage that much. I wrote, it just came to me one day because I was doing the 1 day per card challenge. Writing is my path away from modern day slavery. I wrote down the card and I was like, because I hadn't really admitted to myself my heritage. I didn't know my tribe name. My Romani tribe name is, in English, is black. In Finnish, it's mustalainen. And in Sanskrit-based Romano or Romani Chib, it's kaale, which means black. So in 2000, when I wrote that card, I hadn't met my Finnish Romani kaale birth family yet, and I had just met my Finnish birth family 2 years prior, the tender age of 27. So I didn't really know my heritage. I didn't really know that I was black, even though I knew I was darker than the family that I was adopted into. And I hadn't really admitted how certain parts of my life felt like slavery. So, all that to say, pardon me, back in 2000 I wrote that card, writing is my path away from modern day slavery. And now all these years later, I've written my way out of that slavery. I've come out of the closet as an adoptee. I've come out of the closet as a Romani. I've come out of the closet as an artist. I've kept a blog. I kept a blog from 2009 to around 2021, around 2020. Really got intense 2019, 2020 to help me come out. And not to say it was all easy, and it wasn't all fun and games, and it wasn't all pretty. Some of it, I looked like the slave owner. That's a tricky part of racism, is both sides of the fence. I've been on both sides of the fence. I'm half black and half white, and so some of that came out in the writing. And so all that to say, trust yourself. Sometimes things will come out and you'll be like, well, where did that come from? And just let it sit. Trust it. And then if you decide you can't trust it, well, sometimes that happens too. Things come out of us when we're in a state of grief, and we've gone mad, when that sad turns to mad. And sometimes that's not to be trusted in a certain way. Part of my adoption contract, I'm not allowed to get mad and go charging forward, even though at times I have to retract, I have to apologize. And that's my choice, that's my game, that's the way I want to live, is to apologize when I need to apologize. And I don't want to be mad, I don't want to be the angry person, even though at times I have been. So all that to say, testament cards. Sometimes you might start with the negative, sometimes you might start with the positive, sometimes you might start with the past, the present, or the future. Just trust yourself. And if you're having a date with yourself and writing out a bunch of testament cards at once, or if you're just doing the card a day challenge and it comes out bit by bit over the year, trust yourself. So that's lots of fun. The testament, solid, grounded. I'm so happy you're here with me today. Thank you for helping breathe life into adoption spirit magic. And until next time, ciao bellas, ciao bellos, I love you all.